Let's rank some movies. This is a collection of 37 movies that I liked this year, so it's not so much of a ranking list, it's more of a sorting video. I've never done one of these before, clearly. I wanted to end the year with some good vibes, and I just collected the 37 films that I enjoyed to a degree this year, and we're just going to be sorting through them and giving a little quick fire review. This is all just my personal preference. If this is a movie that you hated or a movie that you maybe feel differently about, that's okay. We can still be friends. If there's a movie that you think is missing, it's probably because I didn't get to see it, sad, or I didn't really enjoy it, also sad. I really wanted to keep the positive energy for this last video of 2024 because it's been an incredible journey making videos with you this year. I really appreciate all of the support and the engagement and building a community with you here on YouTube. So thank you so much for being part of my journey. Movies are really personal and important to me, so I don't take this lightly. And if this is the first time I'm popping up for you, welcome. Welcome to my channel. My name is Emily, or La Movie Mija. I'm a part-time filmmaker, full-time movie lover, and this is my sorting of 37 movies that I liked in 2024. Since this is a little bit of a different occasion, we're going to be drinking some bubbly. Get a good snap with my chalice of choice, my AMC Wicked Cup. Don't spill, don't spill, don't spill. I don't break her out for just anything, okay? This is a special occasion. Before we get into the actual sorting or ranking, let's break down the actual tiers. So at the top, we have loved. This is self-explanatory. These are just movies I really loved. Next, under that, we have criminally underrated. These are movies that I personally feel offended by the fact that more people didn't see them, and it's a tragedy that they are not more celebrated overall. That is, again, just my personal opinion. Below that are two tiers that are kind of connected. One is watch parties. So these are movies that I would really like to watch with an audience, whether it's people that I know, it could be just me and one other person. I just want to see it in some kind of group setting. The tier below that is It's Personal, and this is a movie that I might want to watch alone, or maybe I don't really know why it resonated with me so much. It's personal, okay? That's for me. And below that, we have Enjoyed the Ride. Again, these are all movies that I liked and enjoyed this year, but possibly won't see myself returning to as often as the ones on the rest of the list. All right, so let's begin. So first up, we have Love Lies Bleeding. This was a fantastic film by Rose Glass. I truly was so taken away by it. I just had never seen anything like it before. Visually, it was incredible. Kitty O'Brien and Kristen Stewart in this are just so stunning. I want to put it under criminally underrated, but I also loved it. But I need to put it under criminally underrated because not enough people are talking about it. And if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. Next up, we have Kinds of Kindness. Kinds of Kindness. Look, I liked it, okay? I actually liked it more than Poor Things. It was wild. It was wacky. I really enjoy that kind of sense of humor, and it was just a little off the rails. And I think I'm going to put this one under It's Personal. I can't imagine a lot of my friends enjoying this one with me, or looking at me the same way again once I sit them down to watch it with me. So I'm just going to keep that one for myself. Next up, we have Marley, One Love. The film is mostly in patois, which I thought was really cool to see brought to the big screen. I thought the performances were really incredible. And what I really enjoyed about this movie was the scenes in which they're making music. I felt like they spent a good amount of time showing us how Bob Marley and the musicians he surrounded himself with made music, and that's such a critical part of his life and his legacy. So that was a really great way to honor him and what he's about. So I think I'm going to put it under Enjoyed the Ride. I don't imagine myself sitting down to rewatch that entire movie often, but I would love to rewatch those making the music scenes. Next up, we have Dune Part 2. This somehow is criminally underrated this year, but I feel in the film talk space, a lot of people are talking about Dune 2. I've never stopped talking about Dune. But however, I don't think it's getting a lot of award recognition, but again, what are awards? It's all subjective anyway. I did have a personal triumph this year of getting a friend who would like never be consider watching a movie like Dune to watch Dune Part 1. So I'm gonna put this in watch party. I would love to get her to watch Dune Part 2 with me. If she liked Part 1, I can get her on board for Part 2. That's going to be a fun party. All right, now we have Bad Boys Ride or Die. This movie kind of knocked me on my back. I was so surprised at just like how much I loved it. The action was incredible. I loved how surreal it got a little bit with them thinking about the end of their life as they're like aging. The way that they dealt with mortality in this movie was kind of profound, and the action sequences were like, you could tell the directors are hungry. Like, they were so inventive, so creative, and I really had a fun time watching Bad Boys Ride or Die. I think I'm gonna put it under watch party as well. This would be fun with a good group of people, especially if you make it a whole like marathon with the other Bad Boys movies. That would be a lot of fun. All right, next up we have Megalopolis, and I know I'm probably in the minority here, but that was a sight to behold. That was a wonderful experience. I did enjoy the ride. It is kind of personal, and I would love to watch it with a large group of people. I mean, Aubrey Plaza's Wow Platinum, that's like a reason enough for that movie to exist. I also thought it was pretty visually awesome. Probably not like most technically perfect film I've ever seen. Definitely has a lot going on, but it was still something that was so bewildering. I just could not look away. And I haven't soured on it since I've watched it. I've actually grown more affectionate towards it. So I'm going to put this under watch party. Yeah, I feel good about Megalopolis in a watch party. I don't think it's criminally underrated, even though it was a little bit panned, but I understand a lot of the criticism that it received, but I still believe that this is a movie to experience with other people. Next up is It Ends With Us, and I actually watched this not too long ago when it became available on streaming. I didn't have any interest to really see it in the theaters because just knowing that there was a lot of tension there, it like, instead of like drawing me in, like, don't worry darling, it kind of like made me retreat. But in the end, I did enjoy the film, and I did enjoy how they talked about certain things. So I think I'm actually going to put It Ends With Us in watch party. That's going to be the fun girls night. I definitely think, fun and educational girls night. I think there's a lot of entry points to having really important conversations about domestic violence and like those systems of violence that women experience. Not necessarily fun, but probably necessary. Next up, you have the film Música. It came out straight to streaming on Amazon Prime. Rudy Mancuso wrote, directed, and stars in the film. And it's like a anti-musical. So in a typical musical, music is non-diegetic, meaning that it's not occurring in the real world that the characters live in. It's just like it's an outward manifestation of their inner psyche. But in this musical, the music is diegetic. So it's being created by the sounds in the environment. It's actually inspired by the real life like disorder that the main character has, where he kind of like blends all of his senses together, and that's where like he can't not hear music everywhere he goes. I really enjoyed the film. Camila Mendes produced it as well, and it's not typical kind of film, and I really enjoyed how they integrated music. There's also some puppetry. You'd have to see it to believe it. I'm gonna put it in I'm going to put it in its personal. I feel good about that because I really enjoyed the film. I know musicals are not everybody's thing, but I really enjoyed getting to see like this new take on a musical. Then you have Rebel Ridge, another straight to streaming movie. This one stars Aaron Pierre, and it really blew my mind. I know that it has the same director as Green Room, which is one of my favorite horror films. I would say Green Room skews more horror. Rebel Ridge is a more action espionage type small town like Western. It's like a modern Western film. And again, beautifully directed. The action sequences were incredible. And Aaron Pierre was like a really cool, like, new star, new face for me to see. I'm going to put this one in enjoyed the ride. It was a little bit long from what I remember. I can't imagine like rewatching it too much, but similar to One Love, I would like to watch some of those sequences again and again because they were really well executed. Okay, actually, this is embarrassing because Civil War shouldn't be on this list. I didn't think I had it on this list. I actually didn't enjoy this movie, and we're not here to talk about that, so I'm just gonna put it at the back there. Next up, we have Late Night with the Devil. This movie actually got a lot of flack for using, or the filmmakers admitting to the fact that they used AI to like generate some of the images within the movie. And when you first watch the movie, you might not know like when it happens, and it doesn't seem like there's any reason to lean on AI. Sometimes leaning on AI is more of like a novelty than like a necessity. And I think that was the case in this, because I don't know if, like, as small as the budget was for this movie, if it was necessary. I saw the movie before that news broke, and I like went back to see like where was the AI, and when I found out how they utilized it, I was like, okay. But the film itself has a really cool premise. It's all like the 70s late night talk show, and they're bringing in like paranormal investigators and a psychic and like someone who claims to be possessed, and just like what happens in that single night of that taping of that show. And I love movies like that, similar to like the Blair Witch Project, which kind of build up a little like real life lore where you're kind of like second guessing, like, did this really happen? Is this like based on true events? The lead actor did a really great job as the late night talk show host. And I really enjoyed the practical effects that they incorporated in the movie as well. But in the end, I didn't fully like enjoy the execution of like how they handled why these things were happening. So I think I would actually just put it in enjoyed the ride. Don't know if I would revisit it. Hey, Monkey Man Dev Patel, where had he been? He had been working on getting this movie made. And wow, all of that effort, all of that time really showed. This movie blew me away. I was enthralled. I was crying. I was cheering. I was so moved just by like the story it was telling, the representation we were seeing on screen, and just how well executed the action sequences were, knowing that like I like behind the scenes this movie was like being held together with like safety pins. This production was like barely being held together. They didn't have like this huge like mega blockbuster budget. They had what they had, and they did some incredible work with it, and also just looked really beautiful. Like there's like a fight sequence towards the end of the film where there's like some costumes that are incorporated or traditional wear, and it is just so stunning. A lot of homage and references paid to John Wick, and if you're a fan of the John Wick films, you should definitely check out Monkey Man. I'm gonna put this in criminally underrated. I cannot believe how quickly we moved on from this movie. It deserved more of our attention. All right, now it's getting good. I saw the TV Glow. This has to be one of my favorite movies of the year. I had such like a life-changing experience in that theater watching this movie. It is really hard to put into words to describe this movie. If you haven't seen it, it's about these two teenagers who are just trying to like survive their lives in 90s suburbia, and the only way they feel like a real connection with anything is through their shared love of a like teen show, similar to like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Are You Afraid of the Dark. There's a show within the movie universe that they like obsess over, and it kind of is like an ode to like this nostalgia for 90s kids, but it's also like a warning about like only investing in those parasocial relationships that you have with characters that you never actually meet. And it's just a beautiful examination of like feeling othered and feeling like you can't connect with people. And it is haunting. It's terrifying. It's an experience where if you just allow yourself to get immersed into it, it is such a life-changing event. I swear. I have to put this movie in loved. I loved this movie. I can't imagine, like, contrary to like enjoyed the ride, not wanting to rewatch it again, I can't imagine just casually rewatching I Saw the TV Glow. Like, that's going to be an event. That's going to be like a dark room, got my snacks, my phone is like in another planet, and I am just zoned in to that movie because it is the kind of movie that it demands your attention. Now we have Blink Twice, Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut starring Channing Tatum. This is a movie that some people got or some people didn't get. And I feel like I definitely got this movie. This movie, like this. We were two good friends, two best friends. This movie I thought was fantastic. It really surprised me at every turn. I never really knew where we were going with the mystery of it all. It's like an examination of memory and trauma, but through the guise of like being carted away to a billionaire's private island, and the mystery and the intrigue of that was so compelling. And in an era where we have a lot of movies like that, where people are just getting whisked away to like rich people's islands or private property, I feel like this one really stands out against the crowd. There was an incredible soundtrack. I really enjoyed the performances. Naomi Aki, Adria Arjona. Oh, the first instance of a Beyonce Renaissance needle drop in this movie. Beyonce doesn't give permission to drop her music in just any movie. Like, that was a big deal. And that was a big moment. I'm going to put this movie in... Ooh, am I putting it in loved? I'm going to put it in loved. That's where it's going to be. It can always move, but I feel good about that right now. Then we have Lisa Frankenstein. Lisa Frankenstein. Again, another movie. You either got it or you didn't. I really did get this movie. It was so sweet. Catherine Newton is incredible. Screenplay by Zelda Williams. Screenplay by Diablo Cody. Directed by Zelda Williams. Fact check me on that. But it was so like the perfect genre mashing of like it reminded me of like Edward Scissorhands, but it also was like Heather's, but it was also like Jennifer's Body. There was like so many like fantastical horror elements mashed together, and it told a really sweet story. I can't believe we all moved on from that one so quickly as well. So I'm going to put it with Monkey Man on Criminally Underrated because it is so sweet. I can't believe I've actually seen this on like some lists worst movies of the year. Worst movies of the year? Okay, you need to watch more movies. 1. 2, put some respect on Miss Lisa's name, because Lisa Frankenstein, that's a wonderful movie. Okay, now it's getting spicy. We got challengers. Luca Guadagnino's film with Zendaya, Josh O'Connor, Mike Feist, the sexual erotic tension in this movie. I thought everyone was over-exaggerating. I thought they were overhyping the crap out of this movie. I was like, there's no way this movie's gonna be that hot. The trailers did nothing for me. I was like, okay, I like the vibes, but like, it's tennis. What's sexy about tennis? I was wrong. This is the sexiest movie I've ever seen, next to Eyes Wide Shut. So basically, I have a type: erotic thriller. I was so taken by that score, the Atticus score. The music in this movie is so kinetic. The direction of this movie is impeccable, and like the performances, they were messing with me. Every single time we switched perspectives in that movie, I'm like switching blame on who I'm supposed to be like rooting for or against. And I know in the end it's like the triangle is the point. But I love the way that this movie plays with perspective, and it just kept me on the edge of my seat. I was oohing and awing with everyone else in that theater, and that was a fun experience. I need to put this one up in loved because. All right, next up we have Fall Guy, and before I even talk about it, I'm going to put it in Criminally Underrated. That's it. It has to go there. This is the kind of movie everybody says that they want, and then when they gave it to us, no one showed up to see it. So that's on you. The Fall Guy was like, it's not a perfect movie. I wouldn't say that it was like, needs to be in like Oscar contention, like conversations or like Criterion conversations. But like, to know that the thesis of this film is to celebrate stunt people and the stunt work that went into this and the real life implications of like hiring so many more stunt people to execute those stunts is just so rad. And I loved how much I love movies that love movies. And this is a movie that loved movies. It didn't take itself too seriously. It was super fun. You got Emily Blunt, Ryan Gosling, like you have Barbenheimer co-stars in this movie. It should have performed better. It should be more celebrated. I think that if you haven't watched it yet, you should definitely check it out. Furiosa. George Miller, I am such a fan of the way that action is presented. And that's a testament to his direction, testament to the production design and the editing. Like, I can so easily digest and get immersed into an action movie. And I feel like that's kind of a hurdle for me. When I see action, that's kind of a repellent. I'm not typically one who like leans into action. And when I saw like Mad Max, I was a Fury Road. I was so enamored with all of it. And I love how much this is the kind of sequel that makes the first movie better. This movie, the depth of its story, getting to know more about Furiosa, and Anya Taylor-Joy committing to those mannerisms that Charlize Theron established in the first movie, which is like chronologically after this movie, is so cool. It is wonderful, beautiful, no notes. I really enjoyed everything about it, and I'm just sad that it didn't get more love. And I could put it in criminally underrated because it is, but I think I'm going to put this one in watch party because I do think that it is something to be enjoyed with the crowd and just like have that experience of like watching those scenes and then turning to your friend and being like, did you see that? That's what I want with this movie. Yeah. National Anthem is a film by a photographer named Luke Guilford, and it is unlike anything I've ever seen. It tells a story about the queer rodeo scene that I was completely unaware of. Like, I did not know that there was entire rodeo cultures committed to creating inclusive spaces for queer people. And it's a really tender story about like finding yourself, found family, finding community, and the way that it's shot. So Luke Guilford is the photographer, like I mentioned, and he had a photo book that he made prior to making this film. And all of those visuals informed how he approached making this movie. And this movie is the kind of movie where every second is like a painting, like something that you would like to blow up, put on your wall, like that level of beauty. It is so stunning. If you are someone who enjoys like Americana or like the great, like the desert or like the great outdoors, like there are such stunning visuals in this movie that more people should definitely check it out. I'm going to put this in its personal because it has everything I love. It has queerness, it has cowboys, it has ranchers, it has like the desert. I love the desert, and seeing the desert look this gorgeous on screen is a treat for me, and I really enjoyed this movie. Are you still with me? I hope you're still watching. If you are, please drop your criminally underrated pick of 2024. Which movie do you think deserves more love and didn't get enough attention? All right, I'm gonna try to speed it up here. We got a couple of animated films. We have Transformers 1. Brian Tyree Henry. I will tell you that. Ooh, Brian Tyree Henry. So good in this movie. I had no idea we were going to be getting like a Prince of Egypt level voice acting performance in this movie. This movie blew me away, getting the origins of like the central conflict within the Transformers universe. So cool. I absolutely loved it. I'm going to put this under criminally underrated. This movie needs to be talked about on the same level as some of its contemporaries, other animated greats. It is really that good. Inside Out 2. I am going to say enjoyed the ride. I really enjoyed the portrayal of anxiety. I loved Iowa Dibri and Maya Hawke's addition to the cast. I really connected with those characters. I kept feeling like this is me watching that movie. And I really loved Riley's journey, like the real life story that occurred outside of her mind. I really enjoyed that. But I feel like it still doesn't hold a candle to the first one. Like if I'm going to be craving Inside Out, I'm going to be craving the first movie because it's just a classic. Beetlejuice. I'm going to put this one in its personal. I really have a tender spot for the dark, like loneliness that is examined through the Beetlejuice like films, and seeing Lydia grow into adulthood, seeing how she deals with motherhood and how she's still trying to find herself, and like even her connection with her stepmom and figuring out how to connect with her daughter. Like I really enjoyed getting to see her evolution. And I did enjoy how wacky it got in the end. If you know, like the song that they performed towards the end of the movie, it was long, but I liked it. Now we have We Live in Time. Okay. I wouldn't want to watch this with my friends because I don't want to cry in front of them like that. I'm going to say that it's personal. I think that like having that conflict when you are facing like death, like we have a character who is facing a diagnosis of cancer and still just trying to figure out what life looks like in the face of that. Like, do you still pursue your dreams? How do you take care of the people around you? How do you make sure that they're okay, that they can say goodbye to you? And I think that that's something that is always beautiful to see explored in film. And when you have two incredible actors like Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, it's going to break you. So just know you've been warned. Unless you have a really good mascara and you and your friend are okay with like physical contact to console each other, because that's what you're going to need after watching this. This is the kind of movie that just wrecks you. Now we have Azrael. Azrael is a horror film starring Samara Weaving, similar to the other movie where she's like trying to run from people who are trying to murder her. What's it called? Ready or Not. This is a movie that's set in like a dystopian universe in which nobody is able to talk anymore. And so it's mostly silent. There's not a lot of dialogue in this movie at all, which allows for some really incredible like visual storytelling, really great action sequences. And I was so exhausted watching this movie. I wanted it to end because I wanted our girl to get out of there. I wanted her to be safe, but she is being chased down by this like devout group who wants her back in their like colony, and she's trying to escape, and it is non-stop, like one of those like true time running through the woods all night kind of movies where you're like, I need a break, you need a break, I need a break. But it was really good. I really liked it, and I would say I enjoyed the ride. Next up, we have a movie that I know a lot of you liked, Longlegs. Longlegs is it was creepy, it was funny, and I really feel bad about saying it was funny though, because my little cousin, she's not built for horror movies. She heard me say it was funny, so she decided to go watch it, and she was like, yeah, I had to leave the theater. You said it was funny, and it was terrifying. I feel so bad. But it's not the kind of like haha funny. It's like the kind of funny where you're like, I'm uncomfortable, so I'm laughing. Maybe that was just me. Did anyone else have that reaction watching that movie? But the angles and the colors in this movie were so jarring and so gross. Like, it reminded me of The Ring. Like, The Ring is so green. It like just makes you feel icky. And I feel like that there was a little bit of that in this movie. There was a little bit of like, that detective intrigue kind of thing, but there was moments that were actually like there was some brevity and some silliness. I wasn't imagining that, right? I think I'm gonna definitely put this in watch party because Ashley girl, I'd want you to watch this movie again, but maybe I should be there. I'll be there with you. Next up, we have Trap. Trap I actually did watch in a large group, and that was a good time. I love Trap. I have a soft spot for it because, I don't know, Josh Hartnett's performance in this, like, I got it. I understood what they were trying to do with this movie. You know, if you've seen my review, you know how I feel about it. I really enjoyed this movie. I'm definitely going to put this in watch party because it's so unhinged and it's so wild at times. Like, it's like you need other people there to witness it with you. Like, it's one of those movies. Smile 2. Okay, I'm not even gonna hesitate. I'm gonna put this in Loved. I was so impressed with this movie. I was not a particularly big fan of this first Smile. I thought it was okay. I thought they kind of like flubbed the landing in the end. But Smile 2? Essentially, they're making the same movie twice. Like, this is Smile 1, but like better. And I think they have a better like vehicle, like Naomi Scott as a protagonist, and like as a pop artist, Sky Riley. Y'all know I'm Sky Riley's biggest fan. Sky Riley, she made a whole EP for this movie, like all the choreography, the dancing, like the costume designs for her. I love a pop princess, and between Trap and Smile 2, I was I was so happy. But Smile 2, the performance of Naomi Scott really sells it. She is incredible. She sells that horror. She is so like devastatingly haunted by this smile demon, and the whole story together just works so well for her. And I really think they made something truly chilling. Like, it's not often I'll watch a movie where it still creeps me out days later, and that movie was like under my skin for a while. Well, Transformers 1 is here again. Can you tell I've never done this before? Next up, we have Conclave. Conclave, I didn't think that I was going to like a movie about popes or popes arguing or trying to find a new pope. None of that, like, at first glance seems real intriguing, but you dig just a little bit deeper and there is so much mystery, so much intrigue. The dialogue in this film is really something special. Even more than that, though, the visuals of this film, the blocking for this film, if you look at some of the stills for Conclave, it's kind of astonishing just like how many paintings they made with this movie. The setting alone within the Vatican, there's just so much to devour there. And the way that they set up this like this voting system for the popes, and like the way that they set up this voting system for the popes, and like the internal struggle between the like cardinals, it was so interesting, so compelling, and yeah, a really wonderfully executed film. I'm going to put this in watch party because those popes, they can talk, and little chismosos, I'd like to talk about them. So let's watch it together. Next up is A Real Pain, directed by Jesse Eisenberg, also starring Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. And it's about these two cousins who are a little bit estranged. They haven't talked in a while. They're reconnecting over a tour they're going on. It's like a tour of like different places that were impacted by the Holocaust, even visiting a concentration camp. And they're doing this because their grandmother passed away and she left them a little bit of money specifically to do this trip so that they can learn more about their heritage and to see the place where she grew up. And already there's a lot going on there. But it's a really exquisite examination of like pain and what we're able to endure together, and where it's permissible to feel pain and where we are able to express ourselves. And if you've ever been someone who's like visited like a place like a concentration camp or a memorial site, and you're just kind of like overwhelmed with how are you supposed to exist in that space, this movie is an incredible examination of what that's like. I'm going to put this in, it's personal. This is a movie that would inspire you to journal afterward. There's a lot to like investigate with yourself and engage with the film following a screening of that. Oh my God, my voice is getting a little hoarse. I'm sorry, I'm talking too long. But we're almost at the end. All right, we got Emilia Pérez, and this is a movie. Look, what can I say? I can't lie to you. I literally have a poster of the frames from that movie behind me. I got to see it at the Vista Theater. Zoe Saldana introduced it, and I, from start to finish, was like, what is this? I don't know what it was about this movie, but I sat in the theater when it was done, and I cried for like a good 5 minutes. Not just like, I'm talking like head in my hands, sobbing. And no, there's a lot of things about it that are imperfect. There are a lot of things about it that are a little silly, and some that are downright questionable. But I think that specifically Zoe Saldana's performance in this movie is just so compelling. The dancing, the singing, her movement, like her journey as a character, I really loved it. It's unlike anything I'd ever seen before. Again, another musical, but definitely not in the same vein as like another musical we'll get to later. More so like experimental, because the music is so like spoken. Like it's not like breaking out into song. It's kind of like there's just music that's kind of flowing through the ideas that are being presented to us. And I just really understood where they were coming from. And I feel like some of the backlash against this film It like maybe people taking it too seriously, but there is something about the movie and its examination of like being able to change time and space that really like dug into me, and I still think about it a lot. I'm gonna put this movie in, I don't know if it's criminally underrated. I feel like it's downright hated. I'm gonna put it in criminally underrated because I feel like there could be more celebration for it. There should be more commotion for Carla Sofia Gascon and Zoe Saldana, for sure. All right, next up we have The Substance. Whew, okay, this movie hands down needs to go in watch party. I was robbed of the experience of watching it with a good group of people. I went like on an 11 a.m. Tuesday morning like showing of it. That's my bad. I need to see this with more people, and I really want that because that third act alone should be something that any horror fan would like celebrate. And I just love that a movie that is tackling these topics and, you know, having opportunities for performances like the one we get from Demi Moore is just, it should be celebrated. And I love that it's getting so much attention. It deserves it. Next up, we have Your Monster, and easily, I'm putting that in criminally underrated. This is a horror comedy starring Melissa Barrera, and it is so cute, so funny. The romance in this movie is actually pretty wonderful, and the horror elements are also very fun. I love that, like, her story is just so so awful. Like, she gets diagnosed with cancer. Her boyfriend breaks up with her because he like can't take the pressure of like having to have a girlfriend with cancer. But while they were together, they like co-wrote a musical, or she like helped him write a musical, and he promised her a part. And so now in this movie where like the action really starts is where she decides that she still wants to be in that musical. So yes, there are some songs in this movie. It's not like a straightforward musical, like where they're breaking into song like every 10 minutes or so. No, this is more of like there's some musical elements sprinkled in because there is a musical that exists within the movie. So it's, if you're someone who gets like awkward around musicals, this is not so musical like, but it's so sweet, so cute. I really enjoyed the movie, and it's like based on, I believe, the filmmaker's true experience. So if that's true, that's wild. We should celebrate this movie. Gladiator II. Okay. I like this movie more than I think a lot of other people did. I thought Denzel Washington did an incredible job. He was the star of the show, along with that one rhino who I'm still thinking about constantly. I hope he's okay. I'm going to put this one in watch party because it's for the girls. The girls, we need to watch it together. I mean, my boyfriend, like, watching it with me was fine too, but like, I want to watch it with the girls. All right, next up we have Wicked. Something has changed within me. Something is not the same. You're lucky my voice is gone. Otherwise, I would keep singing to you. Honestly, this movie is near perfect. Near perfect. I love this movie so much. Not only does it elevate the source material, but it gives us so much more to feast our eyes on. The use of like close-ups in this movie is just perfection. Like, we get so many different points of views now that we are not capable of seeing on a stage musical theater production. I love that these plot points get to like breathe and take their time. I know the runtime's long, but I feel like it should be. I feel like it doesn't drag. I feel like it's appropriately paced, and the music is different than what we've known for the last 20 years. No, 20 years? That can't be right. Wow. The music is different from what we've known from the Broadway version in a way where it's like it's better in some parts. Like, and knowing that Stephen Schwartz, the original composer of the Broadway songs, got to work closely with these artists for this music, for the soundtrack for the movie. Like, what more could you want? As a Broadway fan, they gave us everything. They gave us everything from the musical that we loved, plus more, plus Cynthia Erivo. She is Elphaba. Like, holy moly. Wow. And Wicked for Good. Got my countdown on. Next up, we have The Fire Inside. This is an all-new movie starring Ryan Destiny and Brian Tyree Henry, and it is a sports biopic about Clarissa T-Rex Shields, who at 17 years old went to the Olympics and became the first woman to win a gold medal in boxing for America. How do we not know her story? It is a really well-made movie. It's a beautifully acted movie, and I am a sucker for an inspirational sports story, and this movie is that plus. Like, they handled all those like familiar beats of a sports story so well. So much fun, so compelling, so inspiring. I'm gonna put this, I can't put it in criminally underrated because it just came out, so I don't really know if people are like gonna think it's underrated. I'm gonna put this in watch party. I think this is watch party. I'm gonna put this movie in watch party. I think that it is a kind of movie where like you want to celebrate it with people, and I think like having a group around to do that with would be like the most satisfying. The last but not least is Nosferatu. Nosferatu is like a perfect gothic fairy tale. There is just something about this movie. It's not something, it's a lot. Like, I made a whole review about it, how much I love this movie. But the more that I think about this movie, the more that I think about it, the more I'm finding these connections to modern times. And I really feel like there's a timelessness to it. These films that Robert Eggers makes that are so historically, bound to like different eras and different settings. The reason why they resonate with us now is because there is a lot of modernity in these stories, a timelessness that is part of them. And this movie, just like the way that they're able to tie in those themes so well with the presentation of the film, like they're one and the same. Sometimes you could have like great visuals, but the story's lacking, or a great story, but the visuals are like all over the place. Or sometimes you could have two instances of like strong story, strong visuals, but they're not exactly like in the same, like telling the same story. This is strong visuals, strong story, telling the same story. The visuals are an extension of the story. I think it's an incredible movie-going experience. If you can watch this in theaters, do. But I would definitely gonna put this in loved. I loved Nosferatu. The use of shadows in the theater, like I loved going to the movies to see this in a theater where you're just kind of encompassed by all of that dread. So good. Oh my goodness, we made it. We sorted through all my favorite movies of 2024. If your favorite movie of 2024 is not on this list, please let me know what your favorite movie was. And if you made it all the way through, why don't you drop a little cherry emoji to honor the cherry limeade poppy that guided us through this journey today. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. I really had a lot of fun. That's all for now. I'll see you next time. I'll see you in the new year. Bye.